Canada Post went on strike.
Right.
And so I had to come up with a money stream. And so it seemed obvious to try this again. And so I approached the local farmers market. It's at Lansdowne.
Yeah.
And I did that. And again, like I was lined up. We were just so busy and trying to keep up with the demand. It was, again, another venue where I saw that reaction.
Right.
It was the same everywhere I went. And so then I started thinking, okay, here, I think I've got
there's something here. Welcome to Season 2 of Behind the Business. I'm your host, Fahim Savja. Every episode, we go beyond the business plans and discover the real life and untold stories of today's entrepreneurs. It's time for the people behind the business. Let's get into it. Hey there, just a quick note before we dive in. Alongside Behind the Business, I run a small consulting practice called SuzyQ Advisory. We work with fintechs, founders, and financial institutions. Whether it's product strategy, partnerships, or business transitions, we're in the business of helping small businesses and those who serve them succeed. If that's you, check us out at savjaholdings.com/advisory. All right, back to your episode. Sue, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I have to tell you a story. I think you saw one of the episodes of Behind the Business, or a portion of it, from the series I had done in Toronto in season 1. And there was someone by the name of Jitin Grover who started Dip Doughnuts. And the first thing he said was that when I came to Canada from the UK, I was so inspired by SuzyQ's. And for me, that was a light bulb because I spent about 6 years in Ottawa and SuzyQ's was almost like a household name. Mm-hmm. So I'm so excited to speak to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to meet you.
I would love to start off by your inspiration for starting SuzyQ's and why donuts?
I grew up with those donuts.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have Finnish parents that emigrated to Canada. They lived in Sweden before. My mom had trained to be, went through the culinary program in Stockholm and worked in a hotel restaurant while my brothers were small. Mm-hmm. And then they emigrated to Canada. But donuts were just something that she would make as a special treat for us growing up.
Amazing.
And it was my normal. But I had grown up with an entrepreneurial family.
Okay.
My father owned a steel manufacturing company in BC.
Amazing.
I grew up in Vancouver.
Got it.
So he made the street poles.
Yeah.
That line the highways and stuff.
Okay.
So business was always just part of my core.
Right.
And we talked about, that was just things we talked about at dinner time and it was just normal. And then growing up in a family with European parents and everything was made from scratch and my mom being a cook. So she made these donuts for us on special occasions, like Halloween and whatever. And so when I became a parent, it was just natural for me to do that sort of thing. I had a fine arts background myself. I went to art school and studied photography and ceramics and so used to making things with my hands. That's just what I do.
Right.
That's all I know.
Right.
And so there was one, but it was difficult having children and I tried to have a ceramic studio and tried to be part of a ceramics co-op and I just couldn't juggle the two. And so I came to realize that I still needed that creative outlet.
Right.
And baking and cooking was something that I could do while my kids were small. And I saw the instant satisfaction or how it pleased them.
Right.
And so it came to be a natural thing for me to do.
Yeah.
My middle son, my second kid, he had a Christmas craft show.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do a baking table. And so we had this big spread of cookies and cakes and all these different things.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, I thought, donuts, I'll just make donuts too. And it was the reaction from people was incredible. Like, it was something that I'd never seen before.
Right.
Just how you could see this light spark up in people's eyes when they saw it.
That's so nice.
And it was, I had tried selling things in my past, having had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
Never had I seen that kind of reaction from people. And so I thought, okay, well, this is
Something
interesting.
here. Yeah.
I had to run back home that day and make more just to keep up with the demand. Like, we had a lineup in the lobby.
No way.
And there were other tables that were kind of empty, and
Right.
we were just a real hit.
Wow.
And so that got me thinking about food and how people don't seem to mind spending a little bit more on that, having that moment of pleasure.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Because it was about a feeling, right, that you gave them. Not necessarily, there's a donut that's for sale, but it's the quality of the donut. It's the feeling you get. It's that treat, right? That
I
you
guess
had,
so. Yeah, I guess
right?
I was lucky enough to have a good base recipe.
Yeah.
Something about it, like, it seems to cross all age groups,
Yeah.
demographics, and it's international too.
That's right.
Every country seems to have their own donut.
Right.
And so it strikes a chord with everyone.
Was that your aha moment, that there's something here and that I should continue to pursue it?
It certainly lit a spark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was working at Canada Post at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was on maternity leave, so with
Okay.
my third kid.
Wow.
And so it gave me time to start putting the pieces together and start thinking about the possibility of having this side gig.
Yeah.
And so I started, actually, when I went back to work, I started taking orders at Canada Post with my fellow
Your colleagues?
coworkers.
Yeah.
And they started placing orders. So every Thursday night, I'd be at home in our kitchen with my husband,
Oh my
Mark,
God.
and we would be making donuts, filling our orders.
Wow.
And within 6 months, Canada Post themselves were placing orders for
You're
me.
kidding.
And so we would be up, like, it would be every payday they would place a big order for the station.
Sure.
And so we'd be up all night making donuts. And it got to be,
And this is in
like,
your kitchen, like you're in your
our
home.
kitchen at home. And then I had so many donuts to deliver that I was using the loading bay at Canada Post itself.
Oh my
just
God.
to keep up with. And it was, it was incredible.
Wow. And this is all while you're still working at Canada Post?
Mhm.
Or did you
I
decide
was
to leave?
back at work, and I was doing the two for about a year and a half, I'd say.
Right.
And then Canada Post went on strike.
Right.
And so I had to come up with a money stream. And so it seemed obvious to try this again.
Yeah.
And so I approached the local farmers market. It's at Lansdowne.
Lansdowne. Yeah.
And I did that. And again, like, I was lined up. We were
Amazing.
just so busy and trying to keep up with the demand. It was, again, another venue where I saw that reaction.
Right.
It was the same everywhere I went. And so then I started thinking, okay, here, I think I've got
There's something
the
here.
keys for a business here.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that you weren't necessarily taking the step to say, I think I need to leave my full-time job. It was because of the strike that you were like, well, I need something here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I need something of my own. And you mentioned your own, like, entrepreneurial background. It's nice to see that you use that kind of to your advantage. Like, you have this entrepreneurial spirit, from your parents and from your father and from the support of your family to say, well, I can do this. It may require, long nights and baking while maybe your kids are sleeping or whatever it is. But it worked out.
It did.
Yeah, that's
It did.
amazing. And then now, fast forward so many years, you have 3 locations.
I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I'll tell you a story, and I'd love to hear the story about the Shack, the first location.
Sure.
When I recently graduated University of Ottawa, one of my close friends started working at an accounting firm here in the city, and they would bring home donuts from SuzyQ's. And I didn't work at this accounting firm, but one of my friends who did would bring them home. Whatever was left over, like whatever, maybe one or two that were left, he would bring them home. And that's when I got introduced to SuzyQ. I was like, oh, there's something here. This is so nice. So then we visited the Hintonburg location, right? Tell me about opening that first, retail location. Did you have to transition out of doing the farmer's market? What was that like?
I was still doing the farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that. We juggled the two for, I want to say about a year and a half.
Right.
And so it felt like I was stepping, like when I made the decision to pursue this,
Yeah.
it almost became like this had a magic or a spirit of its own. And
Right.
all I had to do was push it along.
Yeah.
But all the steps kind of fell into place. And so the shack was once called the Hintonburger.
Yeah.
And I had heard through Canada Post, like somebody
Nice.
else that delivered that route,
Right.
that they were going to be moving and leaving that location
Mhm.
to a bigger spot. And so then I just went and introduced myself to
No
Tom.
way.
And he was wonderful. And he
Wow.
helped lay down a path for me and an exit out for him. Like it was just so convenient for the both of us.
Right.
And I was just so inexperienced, and he like set me up with his his vendors or his people that would, like the garbage people or
Mhm.
his hydro, and I could just sort of take over his accounts for a couple of months while I was transitioning into that space. And
Wow.
so he was super helpful. It was a dump, I have to say. It was a really hard building to work out of, but it at the same time had this romance about it too,
Right.
that people seemed to really, because Hintonburger was very successful in that spot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like maybe my timing was so good and Ottawa was so ready for just to line up for something
Mhm.
that felt hot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just keep thinking I was very lucky and had great timing and the guts to pursue this. And I think with my background too, like I'm not afraid of failing. And so I was willing to take those chances. And I still had that safety net of Canada Post that I could fall back on.
Yeah.
So I kept working there for a year while I opened the
No
shack.
way.
Yeah, I had to, just because I needed that. I mean, here I'm saying I'm not afraid of failure, but I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
Like I really needed that. I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so I had to still have a safe means of income. And
Right.
but I took a leave. I was able to take a leave of absence, another one from Canada Post. I was able to have that safety net where I could go back if the shack didn't work out. But
Right.
again,
But it did.
it was so busy.
Yeah.
Another lineup. Like we were just so inexperienced, really, when we were starting to meet that kind of production, those numbers. And but we did it and we pulled it off.
So I think that's wonderful to hear, because a big reason why I started this podcast is to allow for people who are interested in entrepreneurship to hear the stories of those who are either currently going through it or those who have done it before. And there are people that I know who are viewers that are parents, that are in some form of maybe stable income, but have always wanted to try their hand at something of their own. So for you, when you were going through that balance between leaving Canada Post, taking a leave, and even balancing being a parent, like what were the decisions that you had to make in that moment when having the shack open and doing the farmer's market and, still being somewhat employed at Canada Post? How did you eventually make the choice to say, okay, now it's full throttle on SuzyQ's?
Just seeing the demand, I realized that, again, that we were onto something that was kind of magical, and we could create a strong business from just based on the demand.
Right.
How long did it take me to realize that? A month, 2 months?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't die. And the reaction from people or the buzz, it just seemed to to build up, and all we had to do was keep the thing going.
So great.
So how did we juggle kids and doing that? I kind of still have some PTSD over it all because it was very hard.
Yeah.
And so I had already a babysitter for my youngest one that I had set up while I was still working at Canada Post.
Right.
My boys are a little bit older than my daughter. And so, but it was really like us having to lean on each other as a family. And I would do some things a little different and have a better system of childcare.
Right.
But we did it, and they still talk to me. So
That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said about being a parent while owning, operating, or starting a business. Were your kids there? Like, were they in the shack maybe on weekends or evenings, or there hanging around? And you know how you mentioned how you had an entrepreneurial family? How important is it to you that they also saw you going through entrepreneurship?
Not something that I really thought about, actually. Like, it was just something that we adopted.
Yeah.
And it became who we were. It became part of our identity. I think it was cool for my kids while they were going to school. I got a call from a teacher once where my Theo, my middle son, was selling our donuts in the schoolyard. And they thought it was kind of funny, the teachers. But yeah, he was trying to spin a profit off of it too.
Off of what you were charging in the store?
Yeah.
Wow. He's starting early. There you go.
Yeah. But they all work for me now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so they're all involved in some way.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's so cool. I think that's a testament to them, obviously, having had a good experience. I don't think they would be involved in the business if they didn't have that great of an experience growing up. How was it having support to even start? Like, were there resources in Ottawa or mentors that you leaned on when starting SuzyQ's?
Well, Tom from Hintonburger was one.
Yeah.
Resources like money. My in-laws lent me $20,000 to start the shack.
No way.
And we then just bought like whatever we could afford, and then would upgrade.
Yeah.
We could afford better.
Right.
And then Artisan was an inspiration because they were a bakery that was thriving, and we were kind of following a similar path naturally that they had. And then just whatever good food was in the city. Yeah. Pascal, her ice cream always inspired me to make a flavor. My raspberry cassis was inspired by her, and is still to this day one of my most popular flavors. Right. And that was a flavor that I put together in my kitchen at home. No way. So, yeah. And so, yeah, you just inspired, by anybody that's trying hard to do something creative has always been an inspiration for me. Yeah, that's amazing. I would love to ask about the creative process. Sure. I know in speaking with Jitin in Toronto, he almost went on this kind of genius mode moment when he was talking about flavor profiles and how the consistency and making sure that everything was, in his mind, great for the customer experience, all in all. When you're creating a brand new donut, what's that process like for you? Sometimes it depends. Like sometimes it'll be influenced by a holiday season that's coming up or the change of weather. Yeah. But often it's just what I see in a cookbook or an ice cream flavor. Oh, nice. A lot of flavors have been inspired by ice cream recipes, actually. Amazing. But it's just, traveling, seeing things that other donut shops are doing, or even other restaurants, or just, the weather. Nice. Yeah, whatever comes. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, I have to ask, what's your favorite donut that you've made? Still the Sugar Monkey. Yeah? Yeah. The OG, the original. Yeah. That's awesome. And it's still sold at all 3 locations. Yeah. That's so great. Yes. Yeah, and I think the more you, it seems as though all the staff, the longer they work there, their tastes become more simple.
Yeah.
You start off wanting to try something experimental or really over the top, and then it just gradually, you just want a nice hot donut out of the fryer. Like within half an hour. Mwah,
oh my God. Beautiful. Sometimes you just got to keep it simple, you know? Yes. I do appreciate, in the US, there are some large donut chains that go over the top, and it kind of loses the appeal, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I walked into SuzyQ's over the weekend.
You did?
I did, Hintonburg. I had to go back, to see, and it's no longer a shack. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the simplicity is what I really appreciated. Mm-hmm. Like everything is clean and laid out nicely, and it was a nice throwback for me. So it was a nice reminder that it's just still here, and it's almost an institution in the city, because now you have 3 locations, and I would love to hear about going from the shack to saying it's time for number 2.
Number 2 and number 3 happened simultaneously.
No way. Okay, great.
And so we were looking to expand, and we had found the Robertson Road location and then Saint Laurent.
Right.
And then I want to say like 3 weeks later, COVID came.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so, but maybe it wasn't that short a timeline, but it was within a couple of months, and we had signed the leases for these places, so we were committed to them.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so we had to really plan on the fly and just still believe in the end goal and follow through with those plans.
Right.
During COVID, we moved to 3 brand new locations.
Wow.
Yeah. We pulled it off.
Yeah,
it wasn't
clearly.
easy, but we pulled it off.
What was that? Like, I often talk about or ask people who come on the show, like, what their most challenging moment was in their business so far. Was that it, or was it something else?
It wasn't actually.
What was it?
After COVID.
After COVID.
After, yeah, definitely, because we had actually thrived during COVID because we had.
You're kidding.
We knew we had to stay open.
Yeah.
And we had, I forget how many employees at the time, but we had to figure out some way to still make donuts.
Right.
And it worked out to be beautiful, a beautiful thing. We set up takeout windows.
Nice.
And at a time where we were supposed to be distancing ourselves, we were drawing crowds of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Lining
I saw
up
pictures.
down the street.
Yeah.
Upsetting our neighbors because here we are supposed to be distancing ourselves from each other. And again, we were drawing these massive crowds, and
but people were craving it, I felt like, even for me, at that moment when we were meant to be so apart, all I wanted was to have interaction and a moment of like joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably what you gave people, and that's probably why there was lineups. I mean, of course, the product is wonderful, but it's that feeling, right?
It kind of turned out that way.
Yeah.
And so it almost felt like we were doing a public service as well.
For sure.
And so we made all this money. We were doing well, and we were able to expand into the 3 shops and have a staff. I think we had almost 70 employees at the time after.
Wow.
So we were just booming. But then we didn't realize that the cost hike of all of our raw goods and all the services went up, in some cases almost 40%. And so here we thought we had it made, or we had set down this foundation for the next series of growing.
Right.
But we really got sucker punched by just that change. And so then that's when we started to have to really take a look of our practices and how to be more conservative and with our spending, with my spending, because I had this nature of just buying whatever tool I wanted and to just keep up with our growth I was so into developing our product further and how can we push it? What new equipment can we buy? And all of a sudden I was being told I can't do that. We have to try to save for the next possible event that would set us back. And so, it was a good lesson for me, but a difficult one for us as a company because we were forced to realize where we were being a little sloppy, where we needed to just fine tune our systems and how we went about thinking about money.
Yeah. Was there like someone, or was there like a period of time where you were like, yeah, okay, this makes sense? Or was it that you realized on your own that, hey, something is wrong?
Luckily, I had a really great accountant.
Great.
And so it was that pushback from them that it took a while, though, for me to really accept it, because I was buying the best ingredients too for our.
Yeah.
And, they would say, you're not making any money off of this donut.
Right.
It sounds like it feels like an expensive donut to the customer. But when we were breaking down the costs, it was not that. It wasn't making us money at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so there was always, for quite a while, and still even up to this past year, I've been battling accountants, ingredients that I want to buy. And thankfully, I've got a team of people that actually know what they're doing that helped me through that phase, because we were watching so many companies go out of business. And that felt like such a huge accomplishment. One, that we were a success during that time of lockdown. I could afford to make some mistakes along the way and still be here.
Yeah, no, I think there are like always lessons, right, for people who are going through entrepreneurship, whether it's for the first time or not. And it almost felt like, from your story, that the unit economics, right, the individual costs were coming out of nowhere, because you were right. The cost of ingredients, cost of materials, cost of everything, frankly, after the pandemic went way up, right? So a lot of business owners had to close up shop, right? And are unfortunately no longer here. So the fact that you're able to get out of it is a testament to not only your accountants and your team, but you've yourself to realize, okay, something's got to change, right? Not to paint the picture of doom and gloom and go the other way now, what was your biggest high and biggest accomplishment as a business owner?
To be able to go, there was one trip my husband and I made to New York because this is pandemic, we're super busy.
Yeah.
We were hand cutting all our donuts for up until this trip to New York. I'd found this machine on that. It's a dough sheeter, and then it's got a rotary cutter that will cut hundreds of donuts.
Amazing.
In a fraction of the time it was taking people. And so, but I mean, it still needs to be manned by people to operate. But just being able to find that machine and take the trip to New Jersey, go to this showroom and get a demo of, just to take those steps of idea to making it happen and bringing it in, a very expensive machine, but just realizing that we had the means or the power to do that we could, from kitchen, once a home-based business, to now becoming more of an industrializing the process.
Right.
That felt like a real major accomplishment to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And surely it is. I mean, I'm sure because of that, you're able to produce more, or you're able to expand quicker than having somebody cut donuts or cut dough in the back, right?
Yeah. And then we created a system that supports all three shops from one location. And just, that too is just that I've got, I guess, when I look at the shop, and I look at all the equipment and I look at all the processes and realize these were just ideas in my head once. And now I've got 60 people that are running a system that was once just
in your head,
in my head.
Yeah.
And so that's a real proud moment or thing for me too.
For sure.
I don't think about it too often, but when I'm alone in the building, I walk around and I feel a real sense of pride about that.
That's great. And now that you're at where you're at, what is in your head now? Like, what's the next thing for SuzyQ Doughnuts?
Food truck.
Food truck.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, we've bought this food truck a while. Like, I don't want to say when, but it's been a long time.
Okay.
It's been a long time just trying to build it up and then just take our donuts to the people and see what direction that'll take us in.
So cool.
The goal is this summer we'll have it out on the road.
That's amazing. Okay, so it'll be mobile. It won't be stationed in one location.
It'll have the means to move.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't want to say too much before it happens, because sadly, like, the food or the truck has been a real setback for us.
Okay.
And so it was something that we thought we were going to have on the road even 2 years ago, and it's still not. So it's I need to be careful with what I promise.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We're excited to see it.
Me too.
I want to chat really quickly about the city of Ottawa. And you mentioned, that there are people trying to kind of innovate the food scene and really bring innovation, whether it's food trucks or different types of methods of getting food out there to the city. What has the city of Ottawa, in general, given you as an entrepreneur? And is there this creative hub for you to thrive as a business owner here?
Well, I mean, the people of Ottawa have given us their support.
That's awesome.
And loyalty.
Love that.
And then creative hub. There is one that I haven't really tapped into enough,
Okay. Sure.
I want to say. I know that there's collabs happening between restaurants, and we recently did one with a local hamburger joint that we made donuts for, like a nasty burger where it's got like a glazed donut and a smash burger.
Yeah.
And it was actually pretty wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty great. So we've dabbled a little bit into it, but I would love to get involved with other businesses more.
That's so
moving
cool.
forward. That's definitely a goal of mine.
Yeah, that's amazing. I again, spending almost 6+ years here, I sense that it was starting to happen 10, 15 years ago. And I don't know, I haven't been here long, but I do feel it. I think there's something here where business owners can, work more together, and there are programs and there are, meetups and collabs, like you mentioned, for business owners to thrive here. And I would love to see it, because I think there's so much opportunity here. Was
that happening in Austin? Did you see that a lot?
It is happening in Austin. It was happening before I moved there as well, because I think naturally Austin has a very entrepreneurial mindset in general. So a lot of people have side hustles. A lot of people have something else on the side that they're passionate about in addition to their day job. And I think that's spurred by the industries that are really popular in Austin. So there's a big tech scene. A lot of major tech players have now moved to Austin and have not only brought in their money and resources, but it's brought in a lot more people, which is another constraint and a potential problem that the city of Austin has to face in growing. But there's a lot of creative outlets for people to say, well, I really like doing this. Let me try it on the side for a little while. And there are resources and tools that people can tap into. So yeah, it's a really growing entrepreneurship side hustle culture. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see that grow. Yeah.
I think there's that sort of thing happening in Ottawa. I think that there's like ghost kitchens. Is that what they're called?
Yes, yeah.
And so people have a means to launch an idea, and that I don't think that was around necessarily when I was starting. And so I think there's definitely, especially since COVID, where people may have left a job or didn't have a job to go back to and were forced to get creative with making money. And so I've seen a lot of businesses just pop up. A lot of bakeries definitely pop up since COVID.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully it's things like this, like whether it's the ghost the ghost kitchen concept or tools and resources people can lean on to say, yeah, I think I can do this. I think I can start on my own, despite being, having a parent and a current full-time job and, other obligations. Like if somebody really wants to try, I hope that, they find some inspiration to get them going.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, I mean, now that, you have a growing, thriving business, what is it that you would tell someone who's in that spot to say, well, I want to start, but I just don't know if I should?
Don't romanticize the hustle.
Got it. I love that.
It's a lot of work, and it takes over your life completely. And so unless you're prepared to take that on, maybe think twice. But then there's the wins are such a high and make it all seem worthwhile.
Right.
And so you just need to have a good support system and if you can, just hire people that you can trust to help share the load, because you can't sustain the workload.
Yeah.
Just you burn out. And so you really have to create some boundaries and protect your mental health and your physical health, and but getting into a position where you can do that takes some time too.
Yeah.
So you've got to be willing to put in those long hours on your own for quite a while before you can build up a team.
For sure. Yeah. Don't glamorize entrepreneurship or the hustle, because it'll get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And then what would you tell yourself, when you were at Canada Post, at maybe your first donut sale, right, with your kids, in that moment, now that you've seen so many years of business ownership, what would you tell yourself?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here I contradicted myself.
That's okay. That's okay.
Because I am so proud of what we've accomplished, and it has been a painful struggle, but it also has been a really wonderful journey that I've learned so much about myself. And it gave me an opportunity to go back to school. I got my pastry chef certification, and I'm a certified baker as well. I went to Cordon Bleu and
oh my God, love it.
Did this incredible program that I wouldn't have thought to do before that. It helped me set up my kids so they themselves have opportunities. So, I wouldn't have been able to do those things, I don't think, had I stayed with Canada Post.
Right.
And so I would tell myself to go for it.
Go for it. I love it. Sue, thank you so much for being on Behind the Business. I have heard about you, read about you, and having you on the show is really, really inspirational for me. And you have inspired a lot of people already, just as an example, and other entrepreneurs. So I'm so excited for people to hear your story. And thank you once again for being on Behind the Business.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who's joined on this episode of Behind the Business. My name is Fahim Savja.
I'm Sue Hamer.
And I hope to see you on the next episode of Behind the Business. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in on this episode of Behind the Business. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, share it with someone who's on their own entrepreneurial journey or thinking about starting one. Also, follow, subscribe, and leave a review whenever you listen. Lastly, keep up with us on Instagram at BehindTheBiz_POD. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and keep listening. This is Fahim Savja signing off from Behind the Business.